Has it ever occurred to you how children seem to acquire ideas, knowledge, and action we did not thoroughly taught them? Was dancing ever truly natural, or is it something among many others that we learned from someone? Many contentions have clouded the mind of experts with various theories in learning, and one of them sets an eye into the belief that learning is derived from our reception. Observation is the key. Social learning theory postulates that an individual acquires knowledge through observing others and assessing whether the action yields a positive outcome or a negative one. Simply, people learn by observing someone as a frame of reference and the consequences of certain interaction to use the information to hone their action. Albert Bandura, a renowned psychologist, pioneered several works in social cognitive theory. His contribution foregrounds an immense value to the resources for scholars, academics, and practitioners. Bandura opened several passages in theorizing human learning and behavior, with one prominently known as the social learning theory. Some core components of social learning theory. Observed subjects are referred to as the models. They provide a frame of reference based on their action, attitude, or behavior. Exposure to these models influences the child according to the behavior shown to them, which can be then imitated. Albert Bandura identified three models of observational learning. The direct observable model that performs an action or behavior are called the live models, while those that relate to audible instructional models that one can follow to perform the intended action are considered as the verbal instructional model. Lastly, symbolic models may come from media, books, and others that displays a demonstrated behavior. In social learning theories, several mediational processes must be considered. First, is the action even worth imitating? Not every model can capture your interest to observe an action. Attention processes is vital as the first-hand means in imitating an action. The person must be compelled to carefully observe the behavior and its possible consequences. For one to imitate a behavior, it must be engaging. Given the number of daily social interactions, many of these are merely not worth imitating. Hence, those that invoke attention can be influential as it implores our mind to process specific action and its outcome immensely, which is crucial in learning new behavior. Observation will fade in memory without retention. As a second element, Bandura emphasized that for one to successfully imitate an action, they must be able to store the observed information to perform later. An action must mentally appeal symbolically for the mind to organize this information for one to recall after. If one cannot remember the action, it will be least likely to be imitated. Say that you saw others cheering your friends for dancing. You may wonder if they would cheer on you similarly. However, if you can't recall the steps, you may feel demotivated to follow and commit in doing the same action, which means no dancing and no praises for our humble friend. Adjacently, the third component, motor reproduction, is guided by our attention and symbolic processes in performing the task. This considers our ability to perform the demonstrated action. Even if we desire to imitate an action, if posed with physical limits, one may choose simply not to perform an external action. Internally, one may contemplate doing the action even if they are incapable of performing it externally. So if our friend remembers each step in dancing, they can follow, imitate, and dance along with their friend. But if they are sick or cannot simply dance, this whole thing might just remain in their imagination. Observation will not simply translate into action. Motivation reinforces the first three mediational processes. This refers to the perceived outlook based on the consequences during observation. The likelihood for imitation increases or decreases in dependence whether the initial observed outcome leads to an ideal result or produces a negative one. This affects the probability of performing an action. Here, the observer sees the potential reward or punishment subsequent to the action. If dancing can make our friend popular, they will likely imitate the dancing behavior of their friend. However, if they feel shy or literally can't dance, this may outweigh the will to do the action. Learning does not necessarily lead to change. Sometimes it merely manifests into an imitated actions and behaviors. One that social learning theory upheaves is that learning may take place as an internalized process. Mental state and motivation plays an important role whether our learning behavior is acquired or not. This theory also extends that our interaction carry consequences that may tap both cognitive and behavioral aspects of the mind depending on reception. In the premise of social learning theory, being conscious with one's action around the child is of utmost significance. They may emulate a desirable behavior or replicate a detrimental attitude. With the advent of technology, social learning theory remains relevant, manifesting in the contemporary context. The mainstream access to digital sources elevated the symbolic model, enabling fictional characters, figures, and personalities to reach and influence the younger generation exposed to the social media world. This also propagated the emergence of new approaches for learning acquisition. Channels such as CoComelon provides video that captures the formediational process. First, it features iconic characters, catchy nursery rhymes, and recognizable animation. It also displays proper behavior, repetitive basic action, and easy steps to recall. This channel also knows their audience. It provides basic steps that children can follow where young learners find it easy to relate and imitate. More importantly, it inscribes ideal values. It shows rewarding action a child may learn while also displaying naughty actions to avoid. Beyond those, viewers were also able to adapt and learn language from time to time. Dora the Explorer, Ni Hao Kai Lan, and Peppa Pig also highlights that with technology, a child may acquire an access to several knowledge from characters showing good behavior. Certainly, there are other referential figures from their social environment as well, but these mediums supplements entertainment as well as their intellectual mind. While this may not be the strongest learning theory, with moderation and proper guidance, the concepts of social learning theory can prove to be an effective approach in enhancing the means of teachings. There are limitations, but its profound nature has taught us that learning is not a one-way process. This has been the social learning theory.